Alright, so today I've got a video for you guys that, quite frankly, I'm kind of terrified of. We're going to explore a dish made for me by a farmer's market patron who visits me regularly. She likes to experiment with a lot of baked goods, and she buys coffee from me occasionally. And this time, she brought for me coffee jelly. Coffee jelly is a dish more popular in Japan. Now, I'm not going to dig into Western perceptions of Eastern foods. I'm not here to disrespect the culture, but I am here to learn. And I have learned some things. Coffee jelly is made with this powder called agar-agar. I may be saying that wrong. This powder is a substance that basically acts as a thickener, emulsifier. Coffee jelly is brewed coffee set in with this agar-agar powder. And what you get is basically coffee flavored Jello, but not Jello. Don't come at me, Jello. It is quite the interesting substance. Now, you can eat it on its own. I guess the traditional ways are to eat it either with whipped cream or with cold cream in a cup. Like I said, in Japan, this is more popular. I don't know of anywhere around here you can get this made for you. But she made it for me, and so I want to try it. And full disclosure, I have already tried it. I tried it at room temperature, and she made two versions of this with two different coffees, which I found fascinating. It's been sitting in my fridge. I'm gonna pull it out. One of them is made with a Tanzania pea berry coffee. Dark chocolate, raspberry notes, a little bit acidic if I remember correctly. I think that's a great coffee to experiment with. The other one is made with an Ethiopia Sidamo that I just adore as both hot brewed coffee and iced coffee. And so this coffee jelly is traditionally prepared in cubes, cut up into cubes, and you kind of eat them piece by piece. So one of the ideas I had was, can they be frozen and made like coffee ice cubes, where not only do you get the benefit of coffee flavored ice cubes, like you would if you just brewed coffee and turned them into ice cubes, but those ice cubes would melt if they were just coffee. So as coffee gelatin frozen, once they're back down to about room temperature or slightly colder than room temperature, they're not going to melt into the coffee. The coffee flavor should still provide, but the actual substance doesn't melt away. So let's dig into this. Literally, I'm gonna eat one and we're gonna kind of see my reaction there, because it's still gonna be genuine, I promise. It's a trip. It's interesting. Texturally, it's a ride. So I've got the Tanzania pea berry version of this here. Whoop. And it's a little hard to see with this lens on this camera, but I'll roll a close up here so you can get a good look at them. They bounce around, and I think if you were to drop it on the table, they would bounce. I have enough. Oh, they bounce. So I'm gonna eat this. If I could explain the texture based on my memory of tasting it last Thursday, it is now Monday. Think of Jello, but less melt in your mouth and more chew. So without further ado, bottoms up. Oh, oh boy. The texture is just so... The texture is just so unlike anything. You bite it and it splits. And you bite and it splits. And you bite and all those little pieces split. And you got these tiny, tiny little pieces of gelatin to keep chewing on. They just don't like dissolve until you swallow. But, oh, I will tell you, last week I did have these with whipped cream. I don't have any more here at the house, but I didn't think it was necessary to kind of bring this bring this dish to you guys to show you. It's just something new and something interesting, and quite frankly, just a sorry, just bits left over to deal with. Ooh, boy, is the textural experience just jarring. With that said, the coffee flavor, if you can get by the texture experience, the flavor is there. And I do have notes about the recipe. Hang on. The recipe that this was prepared with. Now, I don't know if this is how Eastern cultures prepare their coffee jelly. This was apparently the recipe that was on the packet of powder that she followed. 500 grams of coffee brewed hot, 1/3 of a cup of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of agar powder were added to that. And that's it. So as you can see, the only thing that could affect flavor is the sugar. 1/3 of a cup of sugar is not an insignificant amount of sugar. However, tasting one little piece of that coffee jelly, you don't get an overwhelming sweetness by any means. Actually, I do taste quite a bit of the original coffee flavor from that Tanzania pea berry. And the flavor, you don't hate. Actually, it's quite nice. There's not much there to mess up. It's just the texture. It's just the texture. That said, I want to try using these as ice cubes. So the other one that we have is an Ethiopia Sidamo coffee jelly. And I have some Sidamo. In fact, I have some Sidamo from the same exact roast that this Sidamo came from that was used in this coffee jelly. So I'm going to flash brew and use the frozen cubes as ice cubes. I can't see exactly where this could go wrong until the coffee sits for a little longer, the coffee jelly becomes softer. The only thing I recommend is just to not eat it, because that will, I think, destroy your coffee drinking experience, unless that is something you really wish to do. Let's flash brew some coffee. Here it is. Peach, watermelon, very tropical, extremely refreshing, and not a lot of coffees can attain that kind of experiential quality. Refreshing for me is a tough one to nail, and this one does it. I have had this ice before. It's wonderful iced, it's wonderful hot. Let's do it. It's cold as it is. I just finished flash brewing it, so here we go. Actually, why don't we add the coffee jelly first? And I'm just gonna pretty much put what I have in there. We'll leave one aside. I don't exactly know what I'm expecting. I don't think it's better than coffee ice cubes by any means, but they won't melt and they shouldn't have any reason to break up. It doesn't make any sense because you have to prepare this, brew coffee hot, throw sugar in there, agar, let it set, dice it up, put it in the freezer. Doesn't make sense? No. Do I want to try it? Yeah. So it's a little hard to see in there, but it's in there. They don't exactly float. They kind of just sit at the bottom. But my glass is colder than it started, that's for sure. All right, I feel one kind of in the center, so they're kind of sitting at the bottom. All right, yeah, they're not willingly floating to the top. So there's some density in the agar, in the sugar, keeping it down. Cheers. Yeah, I mean, it's good iced coffee. I didn't expect to run into any weird issues. There's not much there that can be screwed up. With what's included in the coffee jelly recipe, there's not much wrong that can go. Let's drink from the bottom. See if anything has broken up. I can't see anything that might have broken away from the coffee jellies. Tastes fine. Let's poke at them. They're still kind of hard and crunchy. So nothing leads me to believe that this would ruin your iced coffee drink. There's one last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to chew on one of these frozen. It almost seems more edible, and I don't know why. Maybe I'll discover something here. Oh. Whoa. That was frozen, and almost immediately when I put it in my mouth, I could taste kind of the frost on it. And it was hard when I was holding it. But as soon as I started to eat it, it became softer. And instead of breaking up into those dividing pieces over and over and over again, like the room temperature ones, it actually melted. So something in the freezing process is changing kind of the chemical makeup of this thing in such a way that when it warms back up, it more or less melts than breaks. And it wasn't an entirely unpleasant experience. In fact, I preferred eating that over eating it at room temperature. Not that I preferred it really at all. It's not something I would reach for again. Somebody made me something that I can't get around here, something interesting, something popular in another culture that I wanted to learn about. I felt it was interesting, and I thought maybe you guys would find it interesting too. Have you had this before? Do you work with agar-agar powder? Am I saying that wrong? Let me know in the comments below. Is there other weird coffee dishes you think I should make? Because now I'm kind of intrigued, and I think there's more out there to discover. Until next time, enjoy your coffee, and I'll see you in the next one.